Hello, this is Bunting, and today we create, arrange, and mix down some proper sub bass. As always, all the presets I've made here, plus this entire project file, are up on the Patreon, which is a cool place to support me if you think I'm a cool guy. And on the topic of selling out, I would appreciate a like, a comment, and a subscribe. Whatever, bro. Let's make a sub bass. We're starting off with the init patch of Vital. And what you don't need to do is like add 50 layers and then, all right, I like to distort them. I like to then low pass them. Because in the end, all that matters in a sub bass is what's actually going to be played by the subwoofer. And generally subwoofers play below this 140 hertz range. If you look at this, like 140 hertz. And that means only these first three harmonics matter. And we don't need to introduce these first three harmonics through all this stacking and nonsense. We can go straight to the source and edit it ourselves. Now what this is, it's just a place where you can draw in harmonics. There we go. We can clear the phases. And yeah, you could just design the sub bass of your dreams. A lot of times people are like, oh man, analog subs are the best. Analog subs, all they have is just very slight second and third harmonics. You can push up this third harmonic a bunch. That's what a lot of people go with. It makes it loud, but kind of not as deep. It's up to you. Make your own custom sub bass. Shift the phases too. Check it on your monitors, on your car, on a real sub. And once you really like it, right click, save to wavetables, and we have thick sub. OMG, so big. So after that, you can grab that wavetable from user, right? But here's a note on adding distortion and little noise and stuff to subs, right? This is cool and can make the sub sound louder and beefier. But remember, anything above this 140 hertz, that's just what's heard, like what's heard in headphones in that mid-range and that high range. What's actually felt is always below here, okay? Get that right. So we made the thick sub of our dreams that actually plays in sub frequencies. Now let's put it into the arrangement. So this bass here, what we can do is shift arrow key right, select everything, then we can group it, open this, and we can duplicate it. Now we have the same wub, right? But what we want to do with this is we can have one patch playing the actual mid bass sound design, which we can cut the sub out of. And then the other patch we can take, whoops, oh, help, okay. We can delete all our stuff, just keep it as dry as possible, and go into the Vital patch. Now in this Vital patch, it's still the same wub, but we don't need all the effects. All we need is our lovely, trusty, thick sub OMG so big, which we can then shape volume-wise with the LFO. And altogether, follows. Now, if you want to change the movement, want it a little more present maybe, you can turn this level up, have the range be a little less. Or you can shape this LFO likewise. And if you're feeling extra fancy, a little pitch bend, never hurt. Shape it to your liking. But let's say you had some audio that needs a sub under it. You want it to be clean with all the other elements and beautiful. What we can do is make a group of all our sounds that we need a consistent sub on. And then we can grab multiband dynamics, okay? Which you might not want to use. You might want to use linear phase because this shifts the phase of stuff, but who cares, nerd? But anyways, we can disable our mid and high, and then we can monitor it on the spectrum. And we can essentially just turn this down and add the compression, then turn it back up. This is essentially just compressing the low end so its volume is consistent between sounds. You can compress it even more. And you see that single band multi-band compression is able to make the sub more consistent and stuff. Third option is to just forget all of this, right? You can low pass everything in your little arrangement group. And then you could just add a completely separate sub arrangement. And everyone always asks me, oh, when do you add like the separate sub that does its own thing? There's no rule to it. Don't ever ask me that again. It's whatever you want creatively. Sometimes you want the sub to flutter around, do its own rhythm. Other times you want it perfectly following. It's up to you. So generally, in the final mix and master, here I have span and spectrum. What you want to look for is this sub level. Generally, most tracks are between 6 and 0 true peak, right? If we turn it up, yeah, it's slammed because this is Ableton limiter, but that's going to be competitively loud sub. What doesn't matter for sub, though, is the LUFS, right? Our LUFS is plenty loud, but LUFS takes in the full spectrum, the sub, the mids, and the highs in. What determines the true sub level is, well, the sub's true peak. Another element of your sub in the mixdown is the proportion between the sub level and the rest of the elements. Many bass music tracks usually have around 1 or 2 of these bars, which I guess is like 10 decibels difference, while other artists have it level. Now, if I boost the loudness of this in the high end, it might sound louder, but it's not really affecting the sub levels. What it can affect is how the sub is perceived, because louder highs, louder mids, it's going to sound louder in proportion to the sub, which makes the sub sound kind of quieter. It's less audible, okay? Here's the catch though. The problem with having a lot of mids and highs is that if we're pushing ridiculous amounts of loudness, right? So let me get a utility, and then we just boo. You just boost it and then like slam it ridiculously. What you can notice is that there's a lot of just noise being created in the low end, right? This limiting, this over compression, this too much loudness is creating distortion in the low end, and it's decreasing the overall level. But it's not just the level. 2 tracks can have their sub at 0, but if one has more distortion from too much aggressive mastering, its sub is going to be weaker. Long story short, true peak on the sub is what matters. Don't destroy it with too much distortion from mastering. There's definitely a lot of if, ands, or buts in the best sub bass possible, but in the end, you know, get a dedicated sub, get some nice 3 harmonics on them, and don't ruin it in your mastering, goddamn. Oh yeah, and goes without saying at this point, bass mono, whatever, dude. Hope that made sense. Hope you learned. If you did, hit the YouTube buttons, the like, the comment, and sub, all that. And if you want to support the channel, this whole project file and all the presets in it are, again, they're posted on the Patreon. And as a bonus treat for me, check out my site, buntingmusic.com. Plenty of free packs, paid packs. You get one-on-one lessons, and even check out my tunes, whatever. And last but not least, if you want to join a nice online community of me and a bunch of other dudes, here's a Discord, and I'm starting this Facebook group, Bunting's Flag, and also a Reddit. Okay, so if you want to get involved in a bass producer community, this is your chance. Links for everything in the description, but nobody reads it anyway. That covers it. Thanks again for all your support. It really means the world to me to be able to make this cool educational stuff. I like it. Peace out. Love. Up.